All right, so get this. We're going deep into the world of cold cases today.
Oh, I love a good cold case.
Right. And this one, it's a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
It's the murder of Catherine Edwards, a school teacher, back in 1995.
1995.
Found killed in her own home. And the thing is, it took genetic genealogy, that new investigative tool, to finally crack it.
It's amazing what they can do with that now.
It really is, but it's more than just the science. It's the people, too,
Oh, absolutely.
The investigators who just wouldn't give up, Catherine's family and friends who kept her memory alive. I mean, it's a story of just pure, persistence.
Yeah, and it really showcases the power of that tech.
Doesn't it? So, let's rewind. January 14th, 1995. Picture this. Catherine's found in her home. She's been handcuffed.
Oh, wow.
And not just any handcuffs, we're talking police grade.
Seriously.
Yeah, and get this, she was sexually assaulted, too.
Awful.
Now, those handcuffs, that detail right there, that sent chills through the whole community.
I bet. I mean, police-grade handcuffs, that's not something you just find lying around.
Exactly, and there was no sign of forced entry either.
So someone she knew.
That's what they thought, had to be someone she knew.
Makes sense.
So they started looking at people close to her inner circle,
Right, makes sense.
They looked at an ex-boyfriend first, actually.
Okay.
But DNA testing cleared him.
So back to square one.
Back to square one, they hit a wall.
That's been frustrating.
You can imagine, right? They even tracked those handcuff serial numbers.
Wow.
Hoping it would lead them somewhere, but nothing.
Yeah, dead.
Total dead end. And so years go by, the case goes cold. Can you imagine?
I can't, that poor family.
I know, just waiting for answers. And then finally in 2018, there's a glimmer of hope. Genetic genealogy enters the scene.
Now we're talking.
Right. For those who don't know, it's like this high-tech detective work where they compare DNA from the crime scene to those big public genealogy databases.
Like Ancestry and all that?
Exactly. They build these huge family trees. It's like connecting dots across generations to track down a suspect.
It's crazy how they can do that.
Isn't it? And in Catherine's case, it was Texas Ranger Brandon Bess and genealogist Shirley Point. They spearheaded it.
Okay.
But here's the thing, and it's easy to forget this. It's not like instant magic.
Right.
Building that family tree, it's a massive undertaking, like a giant puzzle.
How massive are we talking?
Over 7,500 names.
7,500.
Yeah, talk about a needle in a haystack, right? And leading this whole effort, it was actually Tina Llewellyn, Detective Llewellyn's sister.
Oh, wow.
She poured hours, countless hours into this, piecing together this intricate family tree.
Dedicated, wow.
And get this, she was also an auto crimes detective at the same time.
She was doing double duty.
She was. Talk about dedication, right?
Crazy.
I know. She wasn't just relying on DNA, though. She spent hours going through Catherine's old journals, from years before. Yeah, they were like a window into Catherine's life, her relationships, everything.
Interesting.
She knew even the tiniest detail could be important. It wasn't just about the science, it was about understanding Catherine as a person.
I like that.
Right. And remember, this was before genetic genealogy was like a common thing.
True.
They were really paving the way, Tina and Shirley Point.
Wow.
Working together, comparing notes, chasing every lead.
Talk about teamwork.
Right. And finally, after all that, all those years of dead ends, they got a break.
I did.
The family tree pointed them to two brothers, Clayton and Michael Foreman from Beaumont, Texas.
Bro.
And guess what? These brothers, they had connections to Catherine.
Really?
Yeah, they were in her orbit. And one brother, Clayton, he had a past conviction for sexual assault.
Oh, that's not good.
Right. Talk about a red flag. It immediately shifted the whole focus of the investigation.
I bet.
Okay, so we left off with Clayton Foreman, remember? One of the brothers linked to Catherine through that massive family tree. And he had a past conviction for sexual assault.
Right, but that doesn't automatically mean he's guilty of this.
Right. Exactly. It's a huge red flag. But it's not enough to just arrest him. They needed more. They needed his DNA to connect him directly to Catherine's murder.
I see. So they had a suspect, but not that crucial piece of evidence.
Exactly. And here's where it gets tricky. Because of a legal loophole, back when Clayton was convicted, he never had to give a DNA sample.
Oh, wow. So they couldn't just pull it from a database or anything?
Nope. They had to get creative.
Okay, so what did they do?
They tracked Clayton down to Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah, he was working as an Uber driver there.
Interesting.
And this is where the investigators, they really get clever. They came up with this plan, a ruse, to get his DNA without him even knowing.
A ruse. Okay, I'm all ears.
So they staged this whole like they'd lost something in his car and needed to search it.
Oh, I saw.
And while they were searching, they secretly grabbed a sample of his DNA from, like, discarded trash or something.
Sneaky. Did it work?
It did. They sent the sample for analysis, and boom, it was a match to the DNA from Catherine's crime scene.
Wow, so they finally had him after all these years.
They did. They had their smoking gun, irrefutable evidence linking him to the murder.
What a relief that must have been.
Can you imagine? All those years of searching, and they finally had their answer.
So what happened next? They arrested him.
They did? Armed with that DNA evidence, Texas Rangers went and confronted Clayton.
Oh, I bet that was intense.
Can you imagine the weight of that moment? Decades of mystery, years of investigation, all coming down to this.
And he confessed, right?
He did. Faced with that DNA evidence, he confessed to the crime.
Wow, I wonder what was going through his mind at that point.
Who knows? But for Catherine's community, for her loved ones especially, it must have been a huge wave of relief.
And closure, finally.
Absolutely, after 23 long years.
It's hard to even fathom that feeling.
I know. I mean, on one hand, there's relief, justice being served, but on the other, it's the confirmation of their worst fears, knowing someone they might have known was capable of such a horrible act.
It's a bittersweet feeling for sure.
It is, and Catherine's friends, they actually spoke about it. Diana Coe, she said, "I almost fell to the ground. I can't believe he's done this."
Just the shock of it all after all those years.
Exactly, and Allison Edwards, she said that even though justice was served, it doesn't erase the pain of losing Catherine. It doesn't bring her back.
That's the sad truth, isn't it?
It is, but what strikes me about this whole story is the dedication, the investigators who never gave up, the genealogists piecing together that giant family tree, Catherine's loved ones keeping her memory alive. It's amazing.
It really shows the power of persistence and collaboration.
Doesn't it? You've got law enforcement, forensic science, genealogy, all coming together to solve this incredibly complex puzzle.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And it really shows how genetic genealogy is changing the game when it comes to criminal justice.
It makes you wonder how many more cases like this are out there waiting to be solved.
Exactly, and we're going to talk more about that, the broader implications of genetic genealogy, what it means for the future of solving crimes, all that, in part 3, so stick around.
It's pretty amazing, huh? How genetic genealogy brought justice for Catherine after all those years.
It is, but it also makes you think, where do we go from here? What does this mean for other cases, for criminal justice as a whole?
It's like we've opened this new door, right? And we're just starting to see what's possible.
Exactly. Think of all those families out there still waiting for answers, for closure. This technology could be the key for them.
It's a game changer, no doubt. But like with any powerful tool, we got to be careful, right? Think about the implications.
Oh, absolutely. The ethics of it all. It's a big conversation.
It is. Like when we upload our DNA to those websites, do we really know how that information might be used? It's a question we all need to consider.
It is. It's about finding that balance, solving crimes, but also protecting privacy. It's not simple.
It's not, and it's not just privacy either. There could be unintended consequences, you know? Right, like what if someone's DNA leads to an arrest, but they had no idea about this connection to a crime?
That's a tough one. All sorts of legal and moral questions come up.
Definitely makes you think, but at the end of the day, we can't ignore the good that's come from this. The families who finally have answers, like Catherine's.
That's true. And it sends a message no matter how much time passes, those responsible can be held accountable.
Justice might be delayed, but it's not forgotten.
That's a powerful message. And for me, what stands out is the tenacity of everyone involved, the investigators, the genealogists, Catherine's loved ones. They never gave up.
It's inspiring, really. Shows the strength of the human spirit, our need for justice.
It does. And the Catherine Edwards case, it's like the start of a new era in criminal justice, one where cold cases can be reopened, mysteries solved. The truth has a chance to come out, no matter how long it takes.
It's pretty incredible to think about.
It is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to think about this. What other secrets are out there waiting to be uncovered? How will genetic genealogy change things in the future? It's a fascinating field, and we're just scratching the surface of what it can do. Thanks for joining us.